Hello everybody, it's Crystal. Alright, today I'm going to be showing you how to make that hat that you just saw there on my mannequin. This is what it looks like. So this should fit 19, 23 inch, 24 inch head. It's thick and it's warm. It's mainly front post stitches and puff stitches and some single crochets and doubles, but that's mainly what it is you could take a quick look at it. It's mainly front post stitches. And then they veer off around these 4 sets of puffs down, and then 4 sets of puffs again, and then we got a single crochet rim on it. Now, I do want to show you something before we get started. Now, this stitch, technically, when you make it, has a gap right here. You can see that? Now, that's how the stitch is supposed to be. That's just the way it is. When you go down, back around, they have that little, it has a little gap at the top. But I do tell you how you can eliminate that. See, but it's at the end. You kind of just neatly sew it at the end, and then it shuts it, so it's not there. See, I did it. I did it. I just left a few open so I could show you in the beginning that while you're working it, you're going to have that gap, but don't worry about it. I'm telling you now that you can eliminate it at the end. Once you're done with the whole complete hat, that's when you just take a yarn needle and look at that. Then it's gone. It's gone. So, or you can leave it. It doesn't matter. Like I said, technically it's supposed to be like that, but you just take a piece of yarn and clip it. And then you can do this up here. So these kind of sink in like that. It's cool. Stitches. They're the puffs. And then when you put it on, they pop out. I like it. I think it turned out really nice. So I'm going to give you a little bit of now you can do your brim. Smash it down here as big as you'd like, as long as you'd like, but it's about 8 inches right now. Okay, let me set that to the side. Just remember though, while you're working it, you're going to have these. Okay, it's at the end of the video. I'll show you. It's really easy to fix them. Like I said, I did almost all mine. See, they're not open anymore, but you can leave them if you want. All right, for this particular hat there, I used the Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday Worsted Gradient. So it's their slow fade gradient. It's medium weight number 4, 360 yards. You don't have to use this yarn if you do not want to, but you will need about 250 yards to complete this, probably of a 4-weight, approximately that, 250 yards of a 4-weight to complete this hat. And as far as color control goes, no, I did not color control this hat. I got lucky. Only thing I did was when I started that that cake of yarn, if you've seen the gradient, it starts light and goes dark, is I pulled out a little bit of the light out of the center, and I actually ended up with just only a little bit of dark left. So it's a nice slow fade down from light to dark. Luck. Sorry, I got some tails to hide, but that's it. So, but you don't have to use that yarn. Any 4-weight yarn will work. Pretty cool looking. And then for that particular, for the 4-weight, you want to use a size I, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. So, you guys want to do it? Now, I will admit it's a bit time consuming, but I think it's well worth it. It's so thick, so pretty. Let's do it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off with a slip knot on our hook. And since this is work top down, we have to start in a ring. So we get our slip knot on our hook. And you can use the magic circle here if you'd like for row 1. I'm going to work a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to slip stitch back into that first stitch to form a ring. So I can work into that ring like that. All right, so I'm going to chain 1. Now that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, doesn't count as anything. I want to work 12 double crochets. I'm sorry, not 12. I want to work 8 double crochets through the center of the ring. I'm used to most of my hats starting with 12. All right, so we're going to work 8 double crochets through the center of the ring. So we're going to yarn over and put our hook through that ring, grab our working yarn and pull it back through, and then we are going to work a double crochet. So since that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, we have worked 1 double crochet. And we're going to continue working 1 double crochet through the center of the ring until we have a total of 8. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there is my 8 double crochets. Pull that tail just a little bit and go ahead and slip stitch into your first double crochet to end round 1, and you will have a total of 8 stitches at the end of round 1. And you can usually pull that tail tighter to close it up, and then we can always close it up more if it's still open for you later on. So we've ended round 1 and we have 8 double crochets. So we're going to chain 1 again. Does not count as a stitch. Now we're going to be working front post stitches, and we're going to be working 2 front post stitches around every stitch. All right, so the first one here, if you look closely, first one's always going to have a chain 1 with it. All right, because there's the chain 1 and there's the first stitch. You can go around both, or you can go around both in front post, or if you'd like, you can just go in between that chain 1 and around the post like that. I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do a front post double crochet, and then I'm going to go around the same post again and do another front post double crochet. So that was 2 front post double crochets I just did. And now I'm going to work around putting 2 front post double crochets around the post of every stitch from the previous row. So since we had 8 on row 1 and we're doubling up now, we should have a total of 16 front post double crochets when we make it to the end of round 2. So remember, round 2 is 2 front post double crochets in every stitch all the way around. I'll meet back up with you when I make it to the end of row 2. All right, so I come to the end of row 2 and I have a total of 16 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into my first front post double crochet in row 2 like that. And now we're going to start row 3. We are going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch. And for row 3, we're going to start off working into the very first stitch here. And when you put 2 post stitches in the same stitch, you got to kind of pull them apart to see them. But the first one, we're going to work 2 front post double crochets around that first stitch. So there's the chain 1, there's the first stitch. I'm going to go around in between the chain 1 and the first stitch, and I'm going to work 2 front post doubles just like that. And then the next stitch, I am going to put just 1 front post double around the post of the next. And that's going to be the repeat for round 3. So the next stitch, which you got to kind of dig for it there, is going to be 2 front post double crochets around the same stitch, 1, and back around it again, 2, and then the next stitch is just going to be 1 front post double crochet around that same stitch like that. Repeat it again. The next stitch is going to be 2 front post double crochets around the stitch. There's 1. There's 2. And the next stitch is just going to be 1 front post double crochet around the stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this pattern for round 3. 2 front post double crochets and then 1 front post double crochet. 2 front post doubles and then 1. All right, so I'm coming to the end of excuse me, row 3. And you should have a total now 24 stitches. So your last stitch should have just been 1 post stitch, and we're going to go ahead and end round 3 by slip stitching into our first post stitch. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start round 4. Can chain 1. It doesn't count as a stitch. And again, we're going to start off by putting 2 front post double crochets into our very first stitch. So there's our chain 1. Remember, you can go around both of them, or you can just go in between them. Does not matter either way. I'm just going to go around that first one, and I'm going to work 2 front post double crochets. There's 1 and 2. It's a lot of post stitches, isn't it? And then I'm going to put 1 front post double crochet in each of the next 2. So just get 1 in each of the next 2. So 1 front post double into the next, and then 1 front post double into the next, like that. And that's going to be the repeat here for round 4. So the next stitch is going to be 2 front post double crochets into it, and it's always going to be where we put 2 on the previous round. So that first one's kind of hard to see. You got to pull it out, but you need to put 2 front post double crochets around that one. There's 1, and there's 2, and then we're going to put 1 front post double crochet in each of the next 2. So the next one just gets 1 front post double, and the one after that is 1 front post double. So that is the repeat for round 4. Front post double crochet twice into the next stitch. So there's 1 front post double, go around the same post of the same stitch and do another front post double, and then 1 front post double in the next 2. So 1 in the next, and then 1 in the next. And we're going to keep repeating this pattern for round 4. 2 front post doubles into the next, and 1 front post double into the next 2. So 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, all the way until you get to the end of round 4, and you should have a total of 32 stitches when you make it to the end of round 4. All right, I've made it to the end of row 4, and I have 32 stitches. And your last stitch should have been just 1 post stitch, and we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first post stitch. Now, before we start round 5, I do want to show you something. You know how we've been chaining 1. Now, if you've been going in between the chain 1 like me, you're going to notice that line. Now, if you don't like that, you can start including the chain 1 with your double crochet. I'm going to do that. That way there's no line. I should have did that anyways, but all right. So row 5, chain 1. Now this time we are going to start off again with 2 front post double crochets around the first stitch. I'm going to include that chain 1 this time. You don't have to, and the stitch. I'm going to do that one tight though, so it's not bigger than the others. Okay, we got to do that 2 times around that first stitch. Yeah, that looks better. Like that. And now we're going to put 1 front post double crochet in each of the next 3. So 1, 2, 3, they just get 1 front post double. So many front post doubles. There's 1, go to the next one. There's 2, and then the next one makes 3, and that is the repeat for round 5. We are going to do 2 front post double crochets around the next stitch. There's 1 and 2, like that, and then 1 front post double crochet in each of the next 3. Now on the previous row where we put 2 together, make sure you don't miss one of them, because they're real close and they kind of hide, but you got to make sure that you get it. So 1 in each of the next 3. There's 1, the next one makes 2, and the next one makes 3, and we're going to repeat this all the way around for round 5. So here's again, there's from the previous row, there's where we put 2, so we got to make sure that we work both of those stitches. 2 front post doubles around that next one. There's 1 and 2, and then 1 front post double in each of the next 3. All right, so 2 and then 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. All, I don't know why I did that. Sorry. 2, 1, 1, and 1, and then 2 again, 1, 1, 1, all the way around. And when you make it back to the end of round 5, you should have a total of 40 stitches. All right, so I come to the end of round 5 and I have 40 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into my first stitch. Now, normally, so this is the crown area. Normally I would measure the crown, and as you can see, it is relatively small. But there are some instances of some hats that the crown needs to be smaller or bigger depending on the stitches that are to follow. So the stitches that are coming up are actually going to be increasing the crown as we go. So this right here, 40 stitches, should do it. We can take a quick measurement though. I think as long as you got anywhere between 4, 4.5, 4 3/4. No, you know what? 3.5 to 4.5. No, 3.5 is not going to do it. 4 to 4 3/4, you'd be fine. Yeah, maybe even 5. You'd be okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start round 6. So we got 40 stitches. Round 6, we're going to chain 1. We're going to do 1 front post double crochet into the first 2 stitches. And I am going around my chain 1 and my front post, or in my first stitch this time, so I don't have that seam there all the way down. All right, so we're just putting 1 front post into the first one, and we're putting 1 into the second one, like that. And now we're going to go ahead and start the repeat of round 6. What we're going to do is we're going to work a chain of 2. 1, 2. We're not going to skip any stitches, but we're going to do a front post double crochet around the next 5. So we chain 2, and don't make that chain 2 very loose, okay? Just, don't make it real loose. Don't skip any. Front post double around the next 5 stitches. So there's 1, and here's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to do that again. So we're going to chain 2, but remember not to make it very loose. Chain 2, don't skip anything. Front post double crochet around the next 5. So that's the repeat for round 6. We're chaining 2, and then we do a front post double around the next 5. Chain 2, front post double around the next 5, and we're going to keep repeating that pattern until we get to the last 3 stitches of our row. And that is where I will meet back up with you at the last 3, okay? So remember, chain 2, row 6 is what we're on. Not loose one. Don't skip any stitches. Front post double crochet into the next 5 and repeat. All right, I'll see you in a second. All right, so I'm coming to the end of round 6, and I have 3 stitches that remain. Remember in the beginning we did 2, and then we started our repeat with the chain. So these 3 plus these 2 will equal our 5. But after this set of 5, we need to make sure we do our chain 2, and then go ahead and do a front post double in the remaining 3. 1, 2, and 3, and end it by slip stitching into your first post stitch, and you'll still have your 40 stitches, but you're going to have 8 of these chain 2 spaces. So what we got now is we got 8 groups of 5 double crochets. All right, see that? And then we got the 8 chain 2 spaces. That's round 6. Go ahead and start round 7. Round 7. We're going to chain 1, and again we're going to put a front post double crochet around the first 2 stitches. I don't know why my camera went blurry. I am sorry. So front post around first one, front post around the second one, and now we will start the repeat of round 7. So we're going to work a chain of 2, not a tight one like that. And then we're going to go into this chain space here, and we're going to single crochet like that. And then we're going to chain 2 like that, and then we're going to put a front post double crochet into the next 5, and that will be our repeat for round 7. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we are at our chain 2 space. So again, we're going to chain 2, and just not loosely though. Single crochet into that chain 2 space, chain 2 again, and then 1 front post double crochet into the next 5. So we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. Get these 5 here. All right, so we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around for round 7. Chain 2, single crochet into this chain 2 space, chain 2, and front post into the next 5. And you want to do that all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you here at the last chain space. All right, see you in a second. All right, I'm coming to the end of round 7, and I'm at my chain 2 space here, so I'm going to chain 2 again. This is the last chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 2, and again I got 3 stitches left, so I got a front post double around those and then add it to it, the 2 that we did in the beginning, and we will have our group of 5 that we need. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and that ends round 7. And again, you're going to have your 8 sets of 5 and those chain spaces. Let's go ahead and start round 8. All right, so what we're going to do, start off with the chain 1, and we're going to do a front post double around our first 2 stitches, like always. There's 1 and 2. All right, so what we're going to do now is puff a V. We got to do our puff V stitches. All right, so after that last post stitch, we're going to do a chain 1 like that, and we're going to be working into this single crochet, and it's going to be a little tight. Sometimes it gets tight, but I'm going to show you how we do the puff V. So we chained 1, we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go into the single crochet and draw up a loop, and we want to do that 5 times total. That one would be number 1. Again, go in to the same spot. That's 2. Again is 3. Yarn over again is 4. Excuse me, one more time is 5, and you should have 11 loops on your hook. I'm going to yarn over and go through all 11. Always give it just a little bit of a tug, and we're going to chain 1 to lock it into place. And since this is the V, we're going to chain 2 after that, and we're going to go back into the same place, that same single crochet, and do that puff stitch again. So we're going to yarn over, go into the same spot, and draw up a loop 5 times. That's 1, here's 2, here's 3, and 4. One more time is 5. Should have 11 loops. Yarn over and go through all 11. And then we are going to chain 1 to lock it into place. And then we're going to chain 1 after that, because we chained 1 on this side. All right, and that is the puff. Now, puff V. Now we're going to put front post double crochet into the next 5, and that is going to be the repeat for this row. There's 1, 2, 3, excuse me, 4, and 5. Okay, let's do it again. So we are going to chain 1, and then into the single crochet we're going to work a puff V. So we're going to yarn over and go into that single crochet. Maybe. All right, draw up a loop 5 times. That's number 1. Again, yarn over into the same spot, draw up a loop. That's 2. Yarn over, draw up a loop. That's 3. Again, that's 4. One more time. That's 5. Should have 11 loops. Yarn over and go through all the loops. Give it just a little bit of a tug. We're going to chain 1 to lock it, and then we're going to do a chain 2 because it's a puff V. We got to have that chain 2 space there. Now we're going to go back into the exact same single crochet, and remember, get a little tight and do another puff. So yarn over, go back into that same spot and make another puff. So yarn over, draw a loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5. Yarn over and go through all the loops on your hook. Chain 1 to lock it, and then we're going to chain 1 after that one because we chained 1 over here. And then we're going to do our front post double crochet in these next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we are going to repeat this all the way around. And how about I meet up with you at the last 3 stitches? And we are on row 8. I'll see you in a second. All right, so I come to the end of round 8. Just did my last puff, and I got my 3 post stitches here left. Make sure you chain after that puff and front post into those last 3, and that'll end row 8. All right, it's looking kind of funny. Yeah, it is. Let's go ahead and slip stitch into our first post stitch, and this is what it looks like so far. It's looking kind of funny, but that's okay. So rounds 9, 10, and 11 are all going to be the same, all right? They're pretty similar to what we just did, except for our puff. These are going to be worked in these chain 2 spaces instead of that tiny single crochet. All right, so we're going to chain 1. This is round 9. So remember, 9, 10, and 11 are all the same. And we start off with a front post double into the first 2 stitches. There's 1, and the next one makes 2, and we chain 1, and now we work our puffs into the chain 2 space, but we work them the same. So go into that space, drop a loop 5 times. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go through all the loops, chain 1 to lock it, and then chain 2. Go back into the space and do another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over and go through all the loops, chain 1 to lock, and do 1 more chain, and then we come right over here and we do a front post double crochet around these 5 stitches. So very similar to before, except for we don't need to work in that tiny single crochet. And well, we will later again, but not for the next few rows. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is 5, and we're just going to repeat that again. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to puff a V into the chain 2 space, chain 1, and do our 5 front posts. And we're going to do that all the way around, and then when we get here, you know, you puff V in the chain 2 space, chain 1, and then you have 3 left front post into the last 3, end it with a slip stitch into the first, and then we repeat. So I'm on round 9. I'm going to finish it out. Then I'm going to do round 10 the same, and then I'm going to do round 11 the same. So we will have 4, this is 9, and then 10, 11. We'll have 4 sets of puffs at the end of round 11. I'll meet back up with you then. All right, so I've made it to the end of round 11, and you see that I have 4 sets of puffs. It's looking pretty funny. All right, let's go ahead and do round 12. So what we have to do now is we're going to do another 4 sets of puffs, but they're going to be this way, in between the sets that we've already done. But we're going to chain 1, and we are going to do the front post double into the first 2. Right, this is around 12. 1, 2, and then we're going to chain 2, not loose, just normal. And we're going to single crochet into the next chain 2 space, like that. And then we're going to chain 2 again. And we're going to come over here to these 5 post stitches. We are going to work a front post double around the first 2 of the 5. So there's 1. And there's 2. And now we're going to chain 2. Oops. And we're going to skip one of the post stitches and front post around the other 2. So we skip that middle one. We chain 2, skip that middle one, and front post around the other 2. And this is what we're going to repeat all the way around. So again, we are going to chain 2 and single crochet into the chain 2 space of the next puffy stitch, chain 2, and then we are going to front post double around the first 2 of the next group of 5. Chain 2, skip the next front post, which is the middle of the 5, and front post around the last 2. Just like that, and repeat. Chain 2, single crochet into the next middle of the next puffies, chain 2. Here's our group of 5. We front post double into the first 2. There's 1 and 2. We chain 2, skip the next one, which is the middle of the 5, and front post around the last 2. All right, I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around for round 12, and I'll meet back up with you at our starting point. Remember, it's going to look funny. It's probably going to look funny till you're about finished with the hat. All right, I'll see you in a second. All right, so I'm coming to the end of round 12. I just chained 2, single crocheted in this puffy stitch, chain 2, and here's my starting point where we did 2. Here's my group of 5. We started with 2 puffs, or 2 front posts there. So we are going to do a front post into, there's 3 stitches left, into the next 2. There's 1 and 2, and then we skip that last one, remember, so we have to chain 2. 1, 2, skip that middle one, the middle of the 5, and just go ahead and slip stitch into your first post stitch. All right. So what's going to happen now is these groups of 5 are going to be split in 2 groups. They're going to go and be groups of 4 now. So the hat will get to, it's just going to go from 5 to 4. All right, so round 13, let's chain 1. And we're going to do front post doubles in the first 2. So there's 1. And here's 2, like that. Now right here, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2, and we're going to skip all this, all these chains, the single crochet, everything, all the puffs, and we're going to front post double into the next 2 over here. Pull it kind of tight, and this right here is where the 5 now become 4. You'll see it more later, but just like that. And now we are going to we have to do the puff stitches right here, just like we did up here. So we're going to chain 1, single crochet into this chain space, because we got to work on that single crochet and make our first puff V. Chain 1 like that, and then we are going to front post double in these 2 right here, and chain 2, and skip all this, and these 2 post stitches on the other side, we're going to front post double into those. Pull that first one tight so they all come together. There we go. That's one, and then the next one. So we have eliminated that 5th post stitch right here. Now, so we're going to be working with 4. Chain 1, single crochet into this chain space, chain 1, and we're going to do again post stitch into the next 2 post stitches. There's 1, 2, and then we're going to chain 2, and then we skip all this and these 2 post stitches right over here, front post into those, pull that first one a little tight so it comes together. So there's 1, and the next one is 2, and we're going to repeat that. Chain 1, single crochet here, chain 1, 2 front post into these stitches here, 1 there, and then the next post stitch gets 1, and again we're going to chain 2, and we're going to skip all this and these 2 post stitches over here. We're going to put 1 post stitch in each of those, which will pull them together with the ones on the other side. That, and the next one. Alright, I'm going to keep repeating this pattern all the way around 13 till I make it back to my starting point. Alright, I'm coming to the end here. So here's where I started. Here's my 2 front posts. I just did these 2 front posts. Here's my last chain space. So I'm going to chain 1, go into it in a single crochet, chain 1, and then I'm going to end this round, I think it's round 13, and slip stitch into my first post stitch like that. Alright, so now we have to start making puffs again, and like I said, we have eliminated our groups of 5. They now will become groups of 4. So I'm going to chain 1, I think this is 14, I lose track, but, and we're going to go ahead and we are going to do a front post double crochet into the first 2 like always. There's 1, and here's 2. Now we did puff stitches here before, as you can see. We don't need any here, so what we're going to do is just jump right over here to these 2 post stitches on this side and front post into those and do it nice and tight so it closes that up. So there's 1, and then front post into the next, and there now is our group of 4 posts instead of 5 right there, and there's our puffs. Now we have to start making puffs over here. remember that first puff goes into this, or puff V, first it goes into the single crochet. All right, let's chain 1 and puff V into the first, into the single crochet. Like that. Chain 1 to lock, chain 2 to make the V, go back into the same spot, and do it again. Chain 1 to lock, and then chain 1, and that is the first V of our group of 4. Now again, we have to close these up, so we're going to front post into the next 2 front post stitches. So there's 1, and then 1 here, and then we're going to skip all this nonsense here and come over here to these 2 post stitches on this side, and a front post into each one of those, doing the very first one as tight as you can, and that makes that first one, and then the next one, and that just eliminated again our 5 posts. So now you can see we're going to be working with 4. All right, this is what we're going to repeat all the way around. Chain 1, puff V in the single, just like we did before. That wasn't right. Sorry about that. Five, right? All right. That first one, okay. Chain 1 to lock it, chain 1, and then again, we're going to repeat these next 2 front posts. We are going to do a front post around each of those. There's 1, and then this one. Then we're going to jump all the way over here to these 2 posts, just ignoring all this nonsense here, and front post in that one and in that one, making this first one as tight as possible to close up that gap. There's 1 front post and 2 front posts, and we now have 4 front posts together. All right, so I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I make it back to my starting point. All right, so I made it to the end of that row. I just did my last puff, chained 1, and here I am at the beginning. These were my first 2 front posts, so I'm just going to slip stitch into the first one. Now for the next 3 rows, they are the same, like we did up here. This time, but they're, you know, and they're opposites because they're in the middle here. So this time we're going to start off with the chain 1. So remember, this row and then the 2 that follow are going to be the same. We are going to start off by putting front post double crochet in 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches this time. So in the first one, and then in the next one, and since we eliminated that 5th one, we go to the 3rd one right here, and the 4th one right here, and then we're going to chain 1, and we are at our puff V stitch. So we have to work it into the chain space. So I chained one after that, and we go ahead and do our V-stitched. We're gonna do another. Like that. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 post stitches that we have to work a post stitch around each of those 4. So we don't have the 5 anymore. We're just dealing with 4 in between our puffs. Like that. All right, and we repeat, chain 1, and in this chain 2 space of this puff, we need to do our puff V. That, and here's our 4 post stitches. Post stitch around those 4. So this is what we're going to repeat for until we have a total of 4 rows of puffs. So we're going to do this row, the next row, and the next row will be exactly the same. So when we make it all the way around to our starting point, remember when we end with the puff, chain 1, and then we slip stitch right here because this is our first. We're starting out with 4 post stitches this time. Last time we only started out with 2. So after your last puff, you always chain 1, slip stitch into your first post stitch, and start again with 4 posts. So remember, we're going to do that until we have 4 sets of puffs like we do up here. And I'll be back up with you. All right, so I've made it back around and I have my 4 puffs. Now we're going to need to even this out. I have no idea what row this is, but I slip stitched here into my first post stitch, chained 1. Now what we're going to be doing is just single crochet now, and we're going to be the brim. It's going to be the brim. So we're going to do 1 row of single crochet to kind of even it up, and after that you just do as many rows of single crochet as you want, forever long you want your brim to be. So we're going to chain 1, and these 4 post stitches right here, we're going to put a single crochet in each of those. So back into that first one, and then the next 3. So it's a total of 4. We did those 4 post stitches. And now we are going to single crochet into this chain space. And then we're going to single crochet. We're going to skip this double and single crochet into the next chain space. We're going to skip this single and single crochet into the next chain space. And then we're going to skip this double and single crochet into the next chain space. There we go. So that tighten that up a bit. Okay. And then we're just going to repeat that. So we're going to single crochet into the next 4 post stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And remember, we skip the double and the singles, and we're just putting 1 single crochet in each of the chain spaces. So 1 single crochet in this chain space, skip the double, 1 single crochet in the next chain space, skip that single, 1 single crochet in the next chain space, skip this double, and 1 single crochet into the last chain space. And now we're up against our post stitches again, so single crochet 1 in each of those, and repeat. Single crochet in 1 time into the next chain space, skip the double, single crochet into the next chain space, skip this single, single crochet into the next chain space, skip this double, and single crochet into the last chain space. And here we are, our 4 posts, and we're just going to repeat this pattern all the way around. And after this, like I said, it's just it'll be rows of single crochet for however long you want your brim to be. I mean, that's up to you. You can try it on, do as many rows as you'd like, or you don't have to do any more if you like it right now. That is up to you. Alright, so once I finish this row out and make it all the way back around, I'm just going to end with a slip stitch, chain 1, and rows of single crochet for however long I want my brim. I'm not sure yet. I haven't even tried on the hat. I don't even know if it fits. I'm hoping it does. But I'll let you know how many total, after this row, or how many total rows of just round and around of single crochets I do. If I do any, I don't know. I'll let you know in a second. Alright, so I went ahead and did 5 rows of single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then not counting that one that is that we evened it out with, I did 5 more after that, I think. Let me look. Yeah, but you do as many as you want. Alright, now one thing I didn't know, you know, we're done now, but one thing I did notice is there's no way to really prevent it with this particular stitch, but it does have these little gaps here. Now, I'm going to show you how you can fix that right quick. So, get a little yarn and a needle, if you don't mind that. I mean, the stitch is supposed to have that. That's the way it is intended to look. But, if you don't want it to look like that, it's an easy fix. See? You just put a little yarn on your hook, and you go from the underside and go through this stitch right here and back and to the top of that, back to the underside like that. Just flip your hat inside out, tight knot like that, and then take these tails of both of these and just weave them in. And if you look, like I said, you have to weave in these tails after that knot, but there you go, closed up. Yeah, like that. But like I said, that you can do it that way, or technically the stitch is supposed to have the space. They have them at the top as well, and you can do the same up there if you want. That is up to you, but that's just an option to get rid of those little gappy areas there. But like I said, it's supposed to technically have those. But I sewed mine shut. Well, I'm going to. I sewed some of them shut already. I'll go ahead and do the rest. But yeah, once you tie that little knot in the back, then you just hide these tails with in the back with your yarn needle and clip them off, and it's done. And your hat's done. That's it. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Whew. Don't forget to give me a like if you enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe button for more. Leave me a comment below. Tell me what you think. If you make this, show me a picture on my Bagoday Crochet Facebook page. I'd love to see it. I think it's cool. I'll see you in my next one, okay? Take care.